I'm wondering what your intentions are. Sorry, I'm new to you in this, and I was just intrigued.
Sure. Hear from different ideas and see where we agree and disagree. So.
Yeah. What's like your purpose though? Like communication, yes, but like what ideas are you trying to bring or like help people understand?
Conservative ones, traditional American ones.
Oh, okay. Like traditional conservatism or like modern conservative right wing because they like switched.
I don't like labels,
50
so you can
years
ask me about a topic.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Okay.
I think there's only two sexes, no genders, infinite personalities. Life begins at conception. We should deport all the illegals, right?
Yeah.
So these are just some of my opinions.
So you think it'll like make the country better? Like what are you?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that number one, I want to support our amazing Turning Point USA chapter here, where they feel outnumbered and isolated. Number two, we're promoting our event tonight, so I hope you guys show up. Where's our event? It's like in the Montezuma Hall or something. Yeah, it's great. Montezuma Hall, Montezuma, whatever. And number three is I want to see where I might be wrong, strengthen my arguments, and anybody can say anything to me. I think that free speech is the last best hope we have in Western society.
Nice. Okay, then I have a question about like women's rights.
Please.
In America. I just want to hear what you think,
Sure.
like where you think we're at, how you think we could better them.
Can you, just so I know where you're coming from, can you tell me what is a woman?
Oh, that's a great question. I would classify a woman as somebody with a womb and or a vagina. Sometimes people are born with either one or the other. But
Good. We agree, yes. So as far as women's rights, I don't separate rights based on sex. So you have to tell me what you mean based on that. So.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So do you believe that there's a difference right now in like people's rights and...
No. I mean, there's male-female differences, but there are no male rights or women. Can you give me an example of...
okay, like patriarchy. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Do you believe that we live in a patriarchy and it negatively affects women?
No.
No.
Yeah, so for example, men are more likely to commit suicide,
Yeah.
more likely to die at work, more likely to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Women are far less likely to be in credit card debt, far more likely to graduate from college,
Yeah.
far more likely to get a high-paying job.
Do you think that that's a really good point. Do you
Thank you.
think that the suicide rates or the depression rates and the bankruptcy rates that you just mentioned regarding men have to do with the fact that men are pushed to be less open about their emotions? They're less available to being able to communicate how they feel with others. They're taught to be more violent and be more physically harmful to themselves and others. And do you think that pushes them towards suicide, depression, and bankruptcy?
And I think it's the opposite. I think that we're teaching men to be metrosexual versions of their former selves.
What does metrosexual mean to you?
Indecipherable between a man and woman.
Oh.
So,
What's a man and woman to you? What's the difference between them?
Well, a man you're looking at a man, and I think I'm looking at a woman, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice,
right?
yeah. That was funny.
Yeah, thank you. There's characteristics, archetypes, but we have differences. There are significant male-female differences. I think
like what?
Well, men tend to be more assertive. Women tend to be more agreeable.
Innately or taught?
Innately, and I wouldn't say
innately
taught.
Based on what science?
Well, just for example, if we look at artificial intelligence scanned over 10,000 brains using a SPECT scan, and was able to determine male-female differences 95% of the time of different brain functions based on basal ganglia, amygdala,
Do you know the age?
cerebellum.
Because interestingly enough,
age
I
is
read
14
a study.
to 22.
Okay, 14 to 22. I read a study recently that before the age of 10, brains are... neuroscientists are unable to be able to tell the difference in gender based on the brain, but at a certain point, the social implications that children are taught start making them act differently. But it's been shown that if a man or a woman were given the same... Okay, have you heard that men they have more spatial awareness, like in their brain? Have you heard that one?
I think that's probably true, yeah.
Yeah. So we learned that if women are given a month of the same practices as children that men are given or allowed to do, whether it comes to what they're playing, the media they're intaking, like what they're told and how they're told to act, that women have the same spatial awareness ability as men. So we're finding that innately the brain is the same, but because of the social constructs that we're taught on men and women and how they're supposed to act, their brain ability to activate certain parts changes. So by 14, the brain does seem different.
You raise kids?
Tell me.
Have you ever raised kids?
No, I have 6 nieces and nephews, though, men and women.
You couldn't be more wrong. If you're even around a 2-year-old boy and 2-year-old girl, it's not a matter of what they're taught. The girls are running to the dresses, the boys are running to the guns. You know who agrees with me? One of the leading feminists of the 60s and 70s, Gloria Steinman, who wrote Feminist Mystique.
Yes,
and
I've read that.
Even she, who was like a hardcore gender is taught, when she raised her kids, she was like, oh my goodness, there is a fundamental innate difference between men and women. And it's not just brain structure.
Right.
It's testosterone, it's estradiol, it's
Okay.
estrogen production, it is hormone levels, it is all, and there, I could just prove it. If you sit down with a young lady, they're far more likely to talk about micro topics, and men are more likely to talk about macro topics.
What's
So
the difference between micro and macro?
Great question. So if I sat down with a young lady, she'd be much more likely to talk about friends, relationships, and things that are very intimate to her. A young man would be more likely to talk about the weather, sports, or the stock market, or politics.
Yeah.
And that's not taught. That is innate. That is innate into our bioprogramming.
What
Now,
is bioprogramming?
how we were designed.
What do you mean how we were designed?
I mean, I believe that there's a creator that designed us and that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And you might not agree. I would just say how you were born. I
Yeah.
could even say, just to come to common ground on that.
Oh, okay, so the creator chose that men and women have separate roles and it's innate.
Well, not just separate roles, but made differently. And out of being made differently, you get different roles.
Right. So if science proves that the other way, do you rely on creator over science?
But science has done the opposite. So, for example, in a Harvard study, they put 50 women in a room alone, and they put 50 men in the room alone.
What age?
Not relevant, but around 25, right?
Relevant. But okay.
So,
No, sorry. I'm actually having so much fun.
Okay,
Sorry. Keep going.
so if you really, I'm fascinated that you think that 8-year-olds' brains are infinitely neuroplastic. But we'll get to that back to that later.
No.
So,
When they're like babies. By 8 years old, you're already going through school and you've had so many
Yeah.
relationships. They're definitely affected.
But again, if you were right, John Money would have been proven right. But we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So, that test has been replicated so many times, and even the Dutch, who are like the most progressive on this, have gotten away from the idea of tabula rasa, that boys and girls are born similarly with brain differences. But we'll agree to disagree on that. But anyway, 25-year-olds were put into a room, okay?
Right.
And they said, men, what do you think about when they're alone? No surprise, sports and sex,
Yeah.
right? Young ladies, what do you think about in the room alone for 30 minutes just by themselves? They replayed prior conversations that they had. For the record, no man in the history of the species has replayed conversations that we had and thought about them when we were alone in a room. Like, what conversation, what was this person said? Women are far more relational, micro, than men. And that's just based on how our design is.
Whoa. I think that you just lied that all men don't think. That's such a...
It's
that's
called a
such
joke. I'm sure there's a man
okay.
somewhere that recollected on a conversation.
Well, I didn't know that in a dialect that's a debate based on science and you're talking about a study, that would you implement a joke that's based on a
Yes,
truth?
humor is a tool of a rhetorician to try to get people, to chuckle, a little levity. So, yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you. Let me ask you a question. Do you think
Yeah.
testosterone and estrogen play into people's ability to have drive, ambition, feelings? Do you think testosterone and estrogen are important?
Yes.
Okay, so then if women are lower in testosterone and higher in estrogen, and men are lower in estrogen and higher in testosterone, wouldn't that, independent of society's framing, play into the idea that there are natural differences between the two?
I think that it definitely plays into the idea that there are natural differences. And I think there are natural differences. I just think to an extent that as a society, we've decided that men, because they have more testosterone, and we've known testosterone makes people more aggravated, what's aggravated, I'll just leave it. but-
Aggressive?
Aggressive, yes, sure.
I'll take aggressive.
Yeah, thank you. That it makes people, or men, more aggressive, that we've decided that means that men are not in control of their moral ability or their ability to choose what they're going to do. So it becomes like men have more testosterone, but they still have the ability to choose to treat people better or with less aggression. Like it's like, oh, men don't have the ability to make those choices. That's almost like downplaying men's ability by saying that they just have to give in to their aggression.
I'm not contesting that. The mark of a true man is one who can control himself.
Okay.
Do you think that do you think there's a problem of trying to turn women too masculine?
Turning women too masculine. What's masculine for you?
Well, let's just say not agreeable, forceful, aggressive, aggressive in the best possible term, forward-thinking, more macro, more visionary, less feeling-based, more rational, more yearning towards reason and dialogue, and less towards compassion or the ethos.
And what's feminine to you?
The inverse of that, so more on the emotion side, less macro, more micro, much
So
more.
women are just what men are not?
No, they're different sides of a species coin, right? So you have a human species, you have a male and female,
Yeah.
and there's differences. So I could also posit it separately. A woman is more compassionate, a man is less compassionate. So there's two ways to word it, but
Right.
do you think that there's a problem about trying to force women to be too masculine?
No, I don't think there's a problem.
Okay. Well, I disagree. We have a crisis in this country. I'm curious. Why do you think that we have so many unmarried young 30-something women? It's the most in the history of recorded data.
That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever pondered why we have unmarried women.
Why do you think that it's the young women are the most depressed, alcohol addicted, and psychiatric drug addicted in history?
Is that true?
Oh yeah, the
I
most
think it would be
miserable
this-
they've ever been. I'm just curious, why do you think that is?
Yeah, I guess I would say that I think it's because like the society that we live in, right, like capitalistic, consumeristic, where there's like constant processing and overconsumption that includes like drugs, alcohol, like the overconsumption.
So women going
leads
into the
people-
workforce a lot could create a lot of depression for them.
Yeah, same with men.
Okay, but then shouldn't women, like, I don't know, stay at home and have children and do what they're designed to do?
Men are also
Wouldn't that make them happier?
have the most depression that they have right now in this
Yes,
country.
I
So
agree.
you can make the same argument for men that you just made for women. Shouldn't they
I'm
go
asking
home and be
questions.
out of
I'm
the
saying
workforce?
maybe the men are upset because the women that they're trying to date are more interested in taking care of cats and trying to become partner at the local law firm.
Yeah.
And they say, I don't want to get married till I'm 30. And maybe that creates a sense of despondency when a young male being raised in this country sees everything rigged against them.
So do you not believe that women should be working?
Of course, I believe in liberty. I'm just asking,
Okay.
has there been an unintended tragedy where we have the most financially successful 30 to 35-year-old cohort of young women in history?
And men.
Well, again, the
In
women...
history. Like men and women are the
but
most sick and depressed they've
the
ever
women
been.
are far more depressed than the men. The men are depressed.
But you just said that the men were more depressed and that's why their
Well,
suicide
they're
and
more
depression
suicidal,
rates are higher.
and they're largely more suicidal.
So they're
'cause-
more suicidal but they're less depressed?
One sec. No,
Okay,
they're
sorry.
more successful at committing suicide than women.
Oh,
That's
understood.
a big difference, okay? Women commit suicide. No, it's true. Women try to commit suicide more,
Yeah.
and yet women will go through 3 or 4 attempted suicide attempts. Men usually only 1. You can look
Yeah.
it up. It's just the way it is. But I'm just curious, what is it about the 30 to 35-year-old female? Do you think there might be something missing? Do you think that there's like this biological urge to get married and procreate that we might have been suppressing? Because it is the it's the childless, least married cohort in the history of the country.
Yeah. I believe that marriage and reproduction are beautiful things. I
Good.
do.
Do you think we should encourage it more for young women?
I think we could encourage like a deeper understanding of people's individual sense of self. And then through that, if people can better understand their wants and needs and become more self-aware about who they are and what they need, that ultimately they would lead them to like better and more efficient decision making for themselves.
Okay, and
Whether or not that means marriage.
Last question. You posited this. How would you define the patriarchy?
Oh, the patriarchy. So patriarchy, like the epistemology of the word.
Or just like, do you believe it exists in the country today? Or
Yeah, I believe patriarchy existed. Patriarchy comes from pater, right? Pater means father in Latin. So patriarchy is father over or men over. So it's like a men ruling, right? So we see it in the fact that God or the divinity is represented as men, which was only happened like halfway through the history of humans. So it was like a matrilineal matriarchy society for a while. We see it in the fact that women take men's last name. We see it in the way that men are viewed, or like men view women, and how women kind of have to adhere to the way that men want them to be portrayed. And I agree with you that porn is, what'd you say?
toxic? Poison?
Toxic, yeah. And I think that's an aspect of the patriarchy, right? Like, if you go on a porn website, which I'm sure you haven't in a while, but if
Not
you...
in a while. I used to be addicted, though.
Yeah. Whoa,
And
congrats.
I encourage everyone to break free of that addiction. It's
Yeah,
terrible
me
for
too.
you.
Yeah, me too. That's great. Proud of you for that one. Yeah, but if you go on a porn website, you can see that like the view of all of the porn is from the perspective of a man and it's of a woman. And these kinds of aspects show that right now we live in a society where it's a man's view, it's men over. So like we're all taking on...
Yeah, I thank you for that.
Yeah.
First on the porn thing, 85% of people that consume porn are men, so they're obviously going to shoot it in a way that is more attuned to men. For example,
What if it was shooted for women and then they started watching porn more?
they would change the perspective because they're in it to make money. The same reason why Lifetime movies don't have rock and roll music, and they tend to be very like uplifting, flowery, emotional based, and hyper feminine
Right.
in the writing, because most people that watch Lifetime movies are women.
What's Lifetime movie?
Okay, a Lifetime movie is like a feel-good
Sorry,
movie on
it was-
cable TV that has like a
Oh,
very
okay,
poorly
okay,
written
okay.
narrative and usually ends in some sort of
Like
overly...
Hallmark?
Yeah, like Hallmark.
okay,
yeah,
okay.
that's the best way I could put
Got it.
But thank you for the dialogue. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks you too.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.